We're back with more GLEC Rocket League action coming to you live from South Bend, Indiana for our spring conference finals. We got a big matchup on our hands. The University of Mount Union taking on Cleveland State University, UMU, CSU. These two have been back and forth so close with each other for the entirety of their time within the GLEC. And like I was mentioning before, our last regular season matchup, we saw these teams take each other to Game 7. Mount Union on the brink of a reverse sweep, denied by the side of CSU. However, it's a new day, it's LAN, and it's time for these two teams to get the action rolling. Already CSU going to be able to respond from the early pressure put out by the side of Mount Union, but so far, Mount Union able to keep things clean. No early goals so far. So 20 seconds into this game, Mount Union against that last matchup against Spring Arbor were able to do big damage early, and TK already taking out Lobo. So already you know this game is going to get physical and really going to start to cause some trouble. Thunder with an initial tap orb, able to get the deny. Sip with a little bit of a shutdown onto TK, and Sip sends it actually high into the side of Mount Union, and Lobo from the low ground gets the shutdown. It's not Mount Union, it's CSU taking an early lead in the game. A big response needed for Mount Union to equalize that scoreboard, but CSU, they're not going to let up. Orb with an early contact, but TK going up high and away sends it over Sip. On the backboard, it is Lobo with the response, but Thunder up close with the catch and able to send it up and over. Orb with the big hit back, but TK able to receive and send in. Gets it past Lobo, riding along the ceiling. Sip with contact, but he will get taken out by Thunder. Going to be out of the play for a little bit. Back in now. Lobo with a little bit of contact, but Sip coming from the back end, able to get a little bit of contact, but he sends it into the sidebar. So no goal for CSU. No second, but that's going to come from Lobo. More contact. Gets that one in just on the upper right-hand corner. Sneaks it past Thunder. This one, a lower scoring affair than we've seen from Mount Union. They are keeping it competitive. Icy sends it early inside. Orb with a little bit of contact, and Lobo with more of the control. Things stall out. TK up high. Will get the reception. Sends it over to Icy, but Lobo will intercept any sort of play that they had going. Thunder from height. Lobo again with this mid-play interception, really trying to stop the side of Mount Union from getting things rolling. Thunder trying to be the breakaway player for the University of Mount Union, but he's unable to do it so far, and CSU now on the offensive. It's Lobo in the corner. Sip sends the ball back in as well, but with no boost, CSU has to call off the offensive and try for something new once again. Lobo from the mid-range will be able to get some touch and reset, but TK with the interception up height. It's going to be Sip with the touch. Lobo with the score. Orb in the middle, making sure everything finds its home, and it's CSU up 3-0 as we're just under halfway through game number 1. Kickoff to be found. It'll pitch to the sides, but it will be Mount Union able to mount the first big offensive, and TK could have had a big stall here. He will not get that contact. Allow for Mount Union to stabilize for the time being. They're up close on CSU's goal. Lobo is going to be able to get the stop in what could have been a great shot and a potential big follow-up from Icy, but now CSU, they already use that momentum to get into the Mount Union side of the goal. Icy unable to find the follow-up, but TK will set him up for a big play. Gets a bump in front of the goal, but nobody's there to bring it in. It's going to be Orb with the stop. Orb, he's able to make something happen, but TK with the stall out in midfield. Lobo gets some contact, but Icy actually going to be a little bit of a beat, but nobody's quite there to send it in. So as we get under 2 minutes remaining, Mount Union still remains scoreless. The side of CSU with a lot of time and a lot of room to play with. Icy trying to get the ball sent down, but it will be Lobo on this play, unable to follow it up, but Orb shuts down one of the Mount players. Icy will be able to get it past Orb. Thunder, a little bit of a solid in midfield, but Lobo gets the interception, sends it deep into Mount Union territory. He'll be playing this incredibly slow. Orb now up close, looking for something big. We'll be able to get it over and around the Mount Union players. CSU sends it up, and Lobo with a great shot, not going head on, wants to bring that one in on the side. Moves it right around Icy. It's the opposite of what he was expecting. Just over a minute remains for Mount Union to start to put something on the board, show some signs of life in this game number one. Otherwise, it's looking like it is going to be CSU just here to show up and show out. And the play from Thunder, the move is not there. And it gives CSU a 5-goal lead with a minute remaining in game number one, showing truly why they are the 2 seed in this tournament. Plays needed to be made. It will be Mount Union able to start to mount an offensive. Icy moving things up from height. Orb will be able to stall his play out. Thunder tries to go for a breakaway, but he will get stopped by 2 of the CSU players. A reset hit from Lobo is unable to truly do anything with it, so the ball will get brought back into the CSU side of the field. Orb with a little bit of a pinch, but it is stalled out by Thunder, who sends it back into the opposite corner. Contact, and the ball is in the CSU side of the field. So Mount Union, if they wanted to do something, they had the opportunity to, but now it's just going to the wayside. Lobo pops it up and away. Sip with the touch. It will be a save from TK. So it stops out what could be more scoring for the side of CSU, but Mount Union coming off of their victory in Spring Arbor. They were looking sharp, they were looking dominant, but so far, the story has been just CSU. That's all that we have seen so far. Those post-game stats, they tell the entire story. 4 from Lobo, 3 from Orb, 3 from Sip. The side of Mount Union, TK, 0 shots. Icy with 3, Thunder with 2. TK with the only save for the side of Mount Union, but otherwise it has just been CSU on top of things in this matchup. They've been dominant, and they've not shown any signs of stopping. And obviously, as the 2 seed, you expect them to do some good work. You expect them to be hard to take down, but with the start that Mount Union had with that Spring Arbor game and with CSU dropping a game to Ashland, I was thinking, you know, maybe the 2 seed's coming in a little slow. Maybe the 3 seed can start to make something happen. And obviously, game isn't over. They still have time to do it, but it'll need to show up soon, because if you get CSU comfortable, it could really make something happen. And Icy unable to capitalize off of an insane moment. That was the exact momentum shift that Mount Union needed, and the ball just goes a little too far right. TK trying to make something happen. Thunder will be able to get the pickup, but unable to send it into the net. Icy sends it to that midfield, and it will be TK able to strike back for the side of Mount Union. They're able to put one up on the board now. First one they've been able to put up in this series. It comes in game number 2, so obviously a second away. But kickoff will commence once again, and CSU, they're able to break the line of scrimmage first. Sip gets the shutdown onto TK, so TK now back up after a little bit of a delay, and Sip trying to go for something up high, won't be able to make that contact, so he is going to have to give it away. Orb now in the corner, trying to break out from Icy. It will actually be Lobo who comes in with the contact, but Sip, he's going to get sent back. So it's going to be a second until he's back in the play, and he spawns up on the right side of the field. He's going to be very happy that he was able to be there at exactly the right time. Lobo going for the midair bump. Shot won't go in, though. Stopped by TK. Thunder from height. Get some contact, but he won't be able to find it. But actually, CSU is going to maintain a lot of their pressure. This ball is staying inside the Mount Union half of the field. Sip trying to make something happen. He will go up, he'll go down. Won't be able to make the shot go in. Orb and Lobo, Sip as well, able to stop and try to stall out this play, but the side of Mount Union, they're starting to break through. Icy with a little bit of contact, unable to get any more. TK comes in, but unable to find home for the ball. So now, it's going to be Mount Union breaking away, but instead, it'll be CSU able to retain their control and able to send it deep into Mount Union territory. Lobo up close, trying to fake some sort of pressure, but Thunder will get the hit, sends it back deep into CSU's half of the field. But Orb's gonna ride the momentum, send it into the corner. Icy with the stall, Sip with the stop in the midfield, and DK might have been able to get something, but Lobo is gonna be able to get the control instead, sends it back in. Orb tries for the contact, unable to find Sip though. High in the sky, will go for it. No control just yet. Mount Union, they've been able to hold this 1-0 lead for the time being. Starting out CSU's real offensive prowess in favor of the slower, more stagnant, and more suffocating defensive play that they've been showcasing, but Sip will be the first to break through. Puts CSU on the board after 2 minutes, almost 2:50 of struggle and scraping to find some sort of start. Mount Union, they aren't relenting, they aren't letting them go one bit. They're gonna force CSU to fight tooth and nail for this series, for these games. Orb will be able to get some contact sense towards that mid section, but Mount Union with the beat, Thunder with the contact, Orb with the stall out and to send back, gets it towards that midfield. TK unable to get some contact, but a double tap from Orb, not exactly what you want to see. Doesn't keep it on its trajectory, but Thunder sends it out and away into the goal of CSU. Mount Union now get themselves the lead back 2-1 on the series so far. On the game so far, and with just 90 seconds remaining, if Mount Union can hold their nerve, keep their defensive play as productive as it has been, they'll be looking at an equalized scoreboard and a serious shift in momentum moving into game number 3. But Sip looking to make a statement, looking to change that up. He won't be able to get the bump onto TK, and it'll allow for a little bit of a breakaway. Thunder sends it up and away towards that top corner, but he's unable to get things rolling. TK have to just sit on the sideline and watch. Contact here and there from the side of Mount Union. They will get it away. 60 seconds remaining for this matchup. Mount Union needing to strike soon, needing to strike while the iron is hot, but they won't be able to. Thunder is able to get another on the board. And Mount Union, you chilling. Mount Union looking to equalize the scoreline, and we got ourselves a new face in the studio. It's Mr. Scotty Wade, Dr. Curb stepping up.
What's up, guys? I had to tune in, seeing our Vikings up 1-0 against Mount Union. They played not too long ago. They played a couple weeks ago. It was a Game 7 series. And Mount Union, once again, just proving they're so strong in LAN. Up 4-1 in game number 2 against the Vikings. When they played earlier this month, it was 4-2 for the Vikings. But the problem with CSU is when they get a lead against Mount Union, they get really uncomfortable and nervous for some reason, because for the longest time, Mount Union has had their number at LAN. Last semester, Mount Union kind of dug in them really bad with just ensuring that they could not get their coordination going, and Mount Union did win that 4-1. So we're trying to change history today by moving into upper finals to face Indiana Tech.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that online match, because obviously you were on the broadcast for that, so you saw what was almost a reverse sweep online. CSU able to deny that at the very last second.
Right.
Mount Union taking this game, equalizing the scoreboard. And as someone who's not only watched but also competed both online and in LAN, how much do you think you can really buy into those online results when it comes time for a LAN environment? Do you think it's a decent tell for the state of teams, or do you really think that once it gets to LAN, it's a completely different picture?
Dependent on the team. I think for the CSU, it's definitely really dependent because Lobo and Orb don't have as much LAN experience as Cipricate does, and their nerves tend to show. Their last match against Ashland could have realistically gone Game 7 with how they were playing. Just looked like they were playing less coordinated than they usually are used to. For their first match of the day especially, it's going to be tedious. You're coming into a LAN environment. You want to qualify for CECC. It's very nerve-wracking for anybody. But for our Vikings against Mount Union, you got to hold on to that coordination and not let the nerves get to you. I mean, it's just so tedious.
I mean, yeah, and like you said, it's so important. Not only are these games, obviously it's LAN, so you're not that far from your opponent. If you want to get loud, they are going to be able to hear it. But also, like you said, this is a qualifying bid for what many, I know there's been a little bit of a discourse on Twitter about what you're allowed to call it, but what many would consider the national championship within collegiate esports. So for a program like CSU that is on, I'd say that that bubble point where it's you guys have the rosters that can really start to punch up into those top numbers.
Absolutely.
To be able to send more of your teams to that LAN environment, because obviously you guys are playing for that qualification, but so far we've seen 2 of your rosters book their tickets to CECC. So to have potentially another go there is it's massive for not only a program, but also the entire state of collegiate esports.
I have to think for UMU too. I mean, both of these squads are playing second fiddle to Indiana Tech. Indiana Tech is the overwhelming favorite to take home GLEC and qualify for CECC. We've seen how they've done in the NECC. We've seen how they take down so much of Division I that it's looking really favorable for them. The Vikings have had some brief stints of success in Division I NECC. They took down top 5 St. Clair, and they took down Concord earlier this season. So they have the experience to take down these types of teams in an online environment, but UMU, with a little bit more stagnated success online, has a lot more success offline. We're seeing that come into fruition as Thunder and Danny just having such great coordination. I see the freshman was so dominant in their online series against the Vikings that it allowed Thunder and Danny to really open up. And right now, we're seeing Thunder play a lot more of a pivotal role than last bout. Just making sure that the ball does not go anywhere near the Vikings, and are just setting up so well for Icy and TX Candy to just really go ham.
Yeah, Icy has been really pivotal in these games so far. Obviously, they had their opening series against Spring Arbor that they were able to take, which it was a very dominant showing from the side of Mount Union, which we expect. They're a good seed. They're a good landed team. In this environment, once you get them comfortable, they are really going to show out. And Icy was a big part of that, not only just in the scoring department, but also setting stuff up. But a lot of this chaos, like you said, it is going to be about who is able to keep themselves coordinated. And the side of CSU, they're definitely showing it here and there, but as the series goes on, it's one of those things where, like you were mentioning, and like I'm starting to see, I worry a little bit about if the nerves, as the series starts to get deeper, are going to start to be a little bit more of a problem. TK able to take that one from the side of setup again. Like you said, from Icy, the freshman, playing so well into this system, able to set up the people who have been in this environment before. And I feel like for someone who's new to this, obviously, as you mentioned, Icy, a freshman, first time that he's been on this roster, maybe the first time that you're playing at a LAN with these types of stakes, having players like Thunder and TK who have been in these positions before, and they've been, this is our first time, big response there from Lobo, big time to find it. That definitely has to help coming into a system that at least has some of this experience in high pressure.
The high pressure is not too much for the Vikings to worry about, though. Despite the LAN nerves, Lobo, our dominant player, who is known for making some crazy waves in the air with all of his bottle combos, taking that first goal for the Vikings and trying to stop this momentum from Mount Union. It's just the big problem I see with the Vikings on pretty much a weekly basis is when they either get a score or when they're down, they always have to drain out that clock when they're down. They are very good at draining the clock when they're up, but when they are down, that clock gets to like 30 seconds before I see a goal. And it gives our director plenty of heart attacks for sure.
Oh, yeah, I'd imagine. I'd imagine PJ's having a great time.
The problem with having that mentality when it comes to these games is like you play so good on defense when you're already down. It's not that you're playing bad defense when it's equalized, but when you're especially down, you're playing like it's the iron wall. But it doesn't matter for the Mount Union because, you know, they're already up. They don't need to score again. They just need to drain out the next minute 56.
Yeah,
and again, getting a score off of the back of Canny. Canny's just been so good getting these scores in for Mount Union, and you have to wonder with a minute 55, can CSU find their way back?
It's certainly doable, but with the thing that you were just talking about with them playing incredibly slow and incredibly defensive, especially when they're down, it's a good strategy to try and not go more down, but you need to start being active. You need to start making plays to be able to put numbers up because, like you said, Mount Union, they don't need to be the aggressors. You obviously want to. You want to build up more of a barrier. You want to stop any sort of comeback, but they don't need to. They have that barrier already built, so the onus is more on the side of the Vikings to really strike first and to be the ones to really open things up. And as we get now down towards that 90-second mark, steadily marching towards the 60, this is where we really need to see some big plays come in through for the side of CSU. It's going to be Sip to get the interception at the midfield, but TK gets it over past Lobo. Lobo will be able to respond, gets a little bit of contact off of, I believe, Sip, sends it to the midfield, but nobody's quite there to respond. And as we get towards that 60-second mark, we need to see the Vikings explode.
And explode they need to because we are at that minute mark. CSU does not historically do well when there's a final minute left, and the nerves are on full alert for the Vikings. Mount Union just has to drain out this clock, and despite the little fancy shenanigans from Lobo, they're going to be able to defend. Cyberkate going to try and get it up top, but no, the nice bump coming out from Thunder going to send it back. I mean, something big for this Mount Union squad is the unlocking of Thunder when it came to this series from their last online. Thunder has been so good with getting these demos and just pushing players out of bounds and getting any sort of setup going, and it's just made it so much easier for Icy and Kenny to really get things going. And again, the hat trick coming out from Kenny gonna pretty much shut the door on any sort of comeback for CSU.
Yeah, he's been doing really well for himself in this entire series. And like you mentioned, from the side of Thunder, not only great with physicality, but also a really good defender when it comes down to the point where CSU is making pressure. It's hard to break through on a team that has a player that's not only willing to play incredibly physical, but is also willing to get into the mud, get gritty with it in the back line, and hold down the fort when things do get difficult. And 8 seconds on the board, I mean, it was kind of solidified with the third from TK, but at this point, you can call it done and dusted. It's Mount Union taking a 2-1 lead in this series now.
Maybe trying to get a little pivot goal before, not going to bump it in. And UMU, off the back of the hat trick from Xander, just going to take that and move to a 2-1 lead against CSU.
Yeah, he's been doing great in this entire series. Not only a high scorer, but also a very just like pivotal player and also setting himself up. You see the 3 goals on 3 shots, but also an assist and a save. So really just able to be all over the field, do whatever is necessary, fill the gaps where they are found. And from the side of CSU, not quiet in the scoring, Mount Union having a 3-shot lead, but only one of those 5 able to go in for the side of CSU, and it is off of Lobo, like you said, he's got the big moments, he's got the potential for big pop-offs. I'd almost, the way you're talking about him, sounds like more of like a wild card where you can give him the ball and he might be able to just pull a miracle.
You could call both Orb and Lobo a bit of a wild card. Both of them play a lot of 1s. Whereas Cyberkate plays more 3s and 2s.
I see.
So Cyberkate has the experience of playing on teams more consistently than Lobo and Orb. This is their only team. They play on this team. That's where all their experience comes from.
I see.
That comes from a little bit of like miscoordination at times, which allows for more of an open up from other teams to just break through the Vikings and break into their stance where it's just like, oh, we're going to play defense for a little bit as players like Xander, players like Thunder, and teams like Mount Union can really just open up the Vikings. As we get into game number 4 with Mount Union 2-1.
Yeah, it is going to need to be a dig back from the Vikings again. In and whole, only 1 game though, So the opportunity to equalize us at 2, but like we were saying, this Mount Union offense has been hard to stop, and the Mount Union defense even harder to break through. Orb trying to show a little bit of those mechanics on height. Sip going for a little bit of contact, but Icy was the one to stop it.
Yeah, not going to get exactly a best angle, but actually going to come back. Lobo going to have an attempt, but Icy just right there with Thunder right beside them. I mean, this freshman Phenom just keeps putting on the Vikings on a hold, and they can't really get much going.
Yeah, he's been in what feels like the right position at the right time almost every time that he is necessitated to. And Xander with a little bit of the push forward. Thunder going to be able to receive it from the mid lane. Gets blocked by Orb, and it's going to start a CSU offense. TK, last one back, able to get some.
Zanny going to save that attempt on goal and going to take down Lobo, so no dice there. Probably not going to get much going off of this interaction with just how potent. Like, once one of the CSU players goes down, they immediately go back on defense, because when Mount Union gets that demo, you just have Icy or Zanny just boost straight toward that ball and get that score immediately. So that's why they have to play so heavy on defense. You see them always going back to get boost. They lose boost so quickly because they have to rush back on defense.
Yeah, they're trying not to give the opening for Mount Union to bring things in and to get an early score, especially when we're tied at 0-0. You don't want to give up that early first advantage as we approach towards that 2-minute mark with nobody on the table quite yet, but
no ball in sight, but gonna get saved by Sip at the very last second. Going to try and sip it over to Lobo. Lobo gonna pass it off the pop of the goal to Ty, but no, gonna get blocked off by Mount Union once more, but great starts from CSU to see a little bit more life, and Lobo gonna splash it on in, taking the first score of game number 4.
Yeah, great placement there, able to get up high when it's necessary, reads that the play from Icy is gonna go up, and just able to send it right behind him into the goal. CSU with an early lead here in this game as we're, again, just about 2 minutes in, so a very quiet start with these two teams so strong.
The splash coming in on full display now. Lobo and Orb, the double tag team, they have the most synergy out of any player on the Vikings, so seeing Orb get that beautiful setup, and again, just going to get the score himself now. Lobo and Orb finally coming online to this series, up 2-0 against Mount Union.
Yeah, it looked like he was able just to roll that one in. Yeah, just gets the beat on Thunder, and nobody's far enough back to really stop it, so
Zanny just not in position there.
Nope, having the expectation that Thunder was going to be able to get that contact, but just unable to find. Zanny, last man up, will be able to send it over and away. Orb with the response.
Something to point out with the Vikings here is while the scoring does largely come from Lobo and the Lobo-Orb connections, Cipricate orchestrates those connections to happen with a lot of the initial assists. So it's like he doesn't get credit for the assist most of the time, but he will set up an assist to Lobo or Orb, and then Lobo or Orb will then just get the score from one or the other. So the fact that Ty is just so consistent on mostly defense and getting those openings up for this duo to really shine is what makes that team pop. And right now we're seeing that come into full display.
Yeah, we're starting to see it come through. Like you said, nerves might have been an issue in the first couple, but so far, especially with those last two, those gotta be big confidence boosters, especially for those players that maybe don't have as much of the LAN experience. Mount Union looking for some sort of response if they're able to get it out. It is going to be the contact from Thunder who sends it out and away, but Lobo with the response in the CSU side of the field. Icy with a head-on collision trying to get some piece of it, and Xander will send it up and, well, just up. Won't get it away quite yet.
Cipricate going to start riding this ball over to one of Orb or Lobo. Trying to take it himself, but not quite, not in the position. But Orb going to send it over to the corner, try and get something set up, but so much of Mount Union is there. I don't really think much can get going. Ty going to be out of position there, but fortunately, the rest of the Vikings are just going to continue sending that ball over back onto the Mount Union side of play. And getting closer to that 1 minute mark, CSU might be trying to equalize and getting that opportunity fully to just prevent this momentum for Mount Union.
It really looks like it. They're being very suffocating in their offense. It is going to be both the side of Xander going for a shot, Lobo able to save it. We saw another one try to go, or with the defense as well. Mount Union now trying to do a little bit of an impression of CSU so far with the suffocating offense, but have not been able to find any sort of effect from it. Inch towards the 40-second mark. Icy with a little bit of control is going to contact with Sip in the air. Won't find it. Orb with another stop onto Xander. And 30 seconds remaining for CSU. They've got this 2-goal lead, so they can really just stall that clock out, make things roll, and we could be seeing an equalized scoreline here.
And the fact, just going back to that last interaction from Mount Union and CSU on our side, on CSU side of the playing field, the coordination usually is not there on defense to where they would eventually just get that the 1-2 punch and UMU would get that score, but everyone was there to get that defense and move that ball out of the way. So even if they get a score here, which is not looking likely, even if they get a score here, CSU's looking beyond comfortable as that ball going to land straight to the ground, and the Vikings equalizing against Mount Union 2-2. Everyone's looking online right now for both parties.
Yeah, the thing that you were talking about with that coordination, no one was, I say this a lot because I also watch a lot of hockey, especially with up being in the Cleveland area, and so we have the Cleveland Monsters really close. We have a lot of those goalies there, they like to move outside of the crease. They like to move out from between the pikes and try to play around. And I have some family who's a little like nervous whenever that happens. You know, they go for stuff. But the main thing that I always like to think about whenever I'm watching those guys is that they aren't tweaking when they do it. They move out, but they are set up in how they want to play it. And what's really impressive about that is that's a very easy thing. Nerves can very easily get to you, and especially when you have players who are new to this environment with this type of stakes, with how close this game was before, you don't want it to get that close. You don't want to go to a Game 7 against Mount Union, who's land tested. You want to close this out as soon as possible. And that type of coordination, that type of no one needs to move. We can play our positions. We don't need to be, I'm going to be the guy to go to get that because I have somebody there. I have a defender on that ball. I don't need to move. That is the type of stuff that is really what takes good teams to being great teams because they recognize who is in position and where they need to move.
And especially for the Vikings, you do not want to go down 3-1 against a squad at land that you're historically not great against. So the coordination could not come at a better time than now as CSU and UMU looking. Are we going to get a defense? We are not. We are.
Barely
going to get that defense. Beautiful save coming out from both Orb and Ciprique. Looked like a very, very solid goal for UMU, but turned into a beautiful defense from CSU. I mean, when CSU gets scored on that early, the momentum just shifts so heavily for the opponent that it's hard for the Vikings to really bring it back. But CSU getting one of their best defensive plays of the entire semester.
Easily. Something like that is it's a very easy goal to give up. Sip continuing to be stalwart on the defense. Thunder will be able to stop any sort of push-up from Orb, and Icy in the corner. They could start to move something, but Lobo with the interception, he will be able to move it over towards that Mount Union side of the field. It will actually be Thunder high and away.
Set it up, but Orb going to send that ball back over to Icy, but TSU all the way there. Sip once again going to get another great defensive play. Is just sitting there as the maestro at the goal line. Nothing can get through to him. CSU just keeps trading the position of goalie back and forth between all their players, and sometimes what happens is they get too much into that transition and someone finds a way to break through. So hopefully we continue and staying put on not getting this ball into their nets. Right now, we're actually starting to see a lot more offensive bout from CSU, finally getting some push onto their side. But again, these demos coming out from UMU are preventing the Vikings from getting any sort of offense going.
Yeah, the good thing, though, is that I think CSU, in their own defensive side, they're doing a very good job in doing the same thing that Mount Union is known for, which is getting those demos and stopping any sort of offensive play from the team that is really starting to bat down on your goal. We saw multiple come through in moments where Mount Union almost would have certainly had an opening, but the third player, the pickup, the one to really put it into the net, just wasn't there. That position, though, Thunder going to be able to get our first on the board deep into this game. 2 minutes off the clock. Tack on an extra 5 or 6 seconds to that timer. And Mount Union, they're able to strike first, but it is not a first by any sort of feel.
I mean, CSU was very much stuck into their own corner for the first 2.5 minutes of this game, so it doesn't surprise me that UMU was able to get that first score. At a point, when they get engulfed that much and suffocated, you're still able to breathe, but eventually you're going to lose to the chokehold every now and then, and just that's going to happen to these Vikings, and they have to respond now. 2 minutes and 33 seconds is a lot of time, but again, as I've said time and time again, time doesn't matter if you are the team that is up, and CSU really loves to drain that clock, whether or not they're on favorable positioning or not. So UMU gonna look to play into that and just continue draining this clock no matter how much. Like, the pressure that CSU is putting on isn't bad pressure by any means, but it's not like as coordinated of pressure as you would have seen from their UMU's most recent goal, where they were able to just trade so much on offense and defense between CSU and UMU to the point where CSU had a little bit of fumbling in their transition on defense, and UMU just broke through again to take the first goal.
Yeah,
and we're not really seeing that from CSU.
Yeah, the fact that they were able to find that opening in that transition, stuff that we were talking about, that's one of those things where, again, just if you're not as tested, not as proven, those things might start to fall through the cracks. But right now, both offenses, they've gone quiet. CSU, they have been better at, again, like you said, putting pressure onto the side of Mount Union, keeping the ball in their side of the field, but the pressure hasn't really been followed by anything. It's been ones, but not really 1-2s or 1-2-3s. You've been seeing stray shots, but no one really there to follow up, no one there to take a bump, and no one there to really make sure that that ball goes into the net. That is going to be a demo from Lobo, though, so Mount Union, they were down a player. They had a potential for something to happen, but the player off the respawn Thunder will get the first attempt at a shot. Lobo will be able to stall. Zanny, a little bit of contact, trying to make a play happen. Thunder will be able to keep it on the side of CSU, forcing them to be the ones to make that step. And with 50 seconds remaining in game number 3, we're going to need to see a big play come out from the Vikings. Lobo potentially looking for the start.
And it's going to not start quite yet. Thunder just being so ready on the ground to prevent any sort of assist coming out from, any sort of finisher coming out from Sip or Orb to get that goal for the Vikings. All the Vikings are here, though. Orb going to try and take it with Lobo, but no one on the defensive side. Sai's going to have to rush back there, but it's going to be a little too late as Icy, stone cold, going to get that score, sending UMU up 2-0 with only 29 seconds left. It's definitely possible for the Vikings to get this comeback, but historically speaking, they do not score that much in the final 30 seconds of these matches. So UMU might be neither of these squads are looking to game the next game quite yet, but CSU historically speaking just hasn't gotten that momentum going when it's gotten down late. That's why whenever they are down in score, the game just significantly goes in the favor of their opponent, because you mentioned that UMU's offense was stalled out like CSU's, but again, you don't need to be stalled out. You can be stalled out if you're up. Orb gonna have a little bit of life there, getting that score for CSU with 14 seconds left. So the game is definitely in grasp. Your defense cannot be the one that is stalling out. Your offense can stall out as much as you want if you're up 2-1.
Yeah.
But your defense cannot. So with 14 seconds remaining, can the Vikings get something going, or are they just going to give up a kickoff goal? They're not going to give up.
Not quite.
Goal.
Icy gets that contact on the crossbar. It was looking a little scary there. It is going to come down to the final countdown. CSU going to need to get this one up in the air and retain it. It is going to be looking like Sip trying to go for something. Orb on the low ground, he might have gotten a piece of it, but contact will send it into the ground, and Mount Union, they'll put themselves on series point, just one game away from taking it, moving into those upper finals, like you said, to likely face off against Indiana Tech in the winners finals of this bracket.
And I believe that's tomorrow. This will be the last match for one of these squads, whoever wins today.
I think this is the last matches that are being played, period. So this one, the Indiana Tech, and the two lowers are all getting played in unanimous. That's why you get me and one of our Smash players on the broadcast instead of anybody who knows, well, anybody who's playing Rocket League.
For CSU.
I was gonna say I casted Rocket League forever, so like I know the game, but I
was Diamond 2 at one point.
I was ass. I was bad. I was not good. But I watched traditional sports, and I had a friend who could talk, and that is all I needed.
That's fair.
But no, so yeah,
just
Vikings
looking back into the series for a minute. UMU up 3-2, not necessarily like seeding wise, it's an upset. But UMU historically in this spot has taken the Vikings down 4-2, 4-1 in these spots. For CSU to bring it back, you can't let the lead that UMU builds, no matter how large, get so destructive to your mentality. You have to stay focused. You have to stay focused when it matters, not in the last 29 seconds of the game where you're trying to make some sort of comeback too late. The momentum from UMU gonna immediately come out strong there with a nice little conversion from Zanny, but just not gonna get caught again. But once again, we're getting back in the dance of CSU being the ones off the back foot immediately, and it doesn't look like UMU's going to get off of it anytime soon.
Yeah, it's a very hard thing to break when you are a team like CSU that has had these guys' number online. Obviously, like we said, they beat them in their most recent matchup online. So they have been able to do it, but once you get to land, it's a different environment, and things like that, those goal line defenses, we've now seen 2 games start off with it. It's a good sign that you are able to pull it out, but it's not something that you want to be relying on. You don't want to have to rely on the last second stops or the last minute comebacks. You want to be reliant on just standard, simple gameplay in the mid game where you don't have to make a big hero play where it's just, okay, we're getting a goal maybe every 60 to 90 seconds, and we don't need to be relying on these bad things are happening, just go.
They're going to try and go and score for UMU, but again, just this defense from CSU right now is great. In this spot, this is the good part of the defense. This is where no one has scored yet. Your defense is so online. And just again, Lobo and Orb trading the goalie's position and working at making sure that UMU doesn't immediately get the lead. And with about 2 minutes into this game, the offensive have not quite stalled out. They're both on fire. It's just who is going to break first.
Yeah, it is a big back and forth, looking to see who will be able to crack and who will be the ones to find that crack and really start to work towards it. All back on the CSU side. Mount Union with a little bit of a setup. The demo from Zanny could lead to something, but CSU back to full strength, so it won't result in really anything. And another great work of the CSU defense has been forcing players out of position. We just saw a crossover from Mount Union that really could have resulted in a score if there was a player in the midfield, and there just wasn't. Orb trying to go for the shot. Thunder will be able to connect with it. It stalls out, gets the better of Sip.
A little bit too close to comfort for the Vikings. It feels like even though CSU this particular game is getting a lot more shots on goal, the pressure is just so much more favored for UMU that, yes, the CSU defense is stalling them out in the aspects of, oh, the player isn't there for the goal, the game is just going to continue to be equalized, but UMU is a lot more potent on just getting that 1-2 punch, whereas CSU is relying on these stray shots. You need a play to happen for the Vikings right now because UMU isn't unwilling to go to overtime. CSU can't afford to go to overtime in a high-tense situation when they are the ones that are down, and Ciprique gonna try and get the goal in, but Thunder with a beautiful save. Orb gonna try and save it with no boost. That's just gonna go straight in.
Yeah, unable to get the speed necessary to get a sort of redirect, and it's gonna be, and like you said, Mount Union able to get their first on the board. A long roll from Zanny finds the net of CSU. 2 minutes remaining, so Cleveland State, the Vikes, they've got absolutely the time necessary to make something happen. We just need to see the sort of execute authority on that play to have it really just come to fruition.
The coordination just needs to come online for the Vikings, and right now it's coming in small bursts, but against a squad as veteran as Mount Union, they have all of that talent and all of that communication already built up. IC being the freshman is just so integrated into their system that it doesn't really feel like they're a freshman. Like if you walked up to a random person and watched IC and asked them to watch IC play and asked them, hey, what class are they in? They're gonna probably say they're a junior or senior, but they're playing so locked into the system, and it's just showing so well right now. And with about minute 14 to go, the Vikings on match point, but no one in the backfield, but just coming back in just in the nick of time to save any potential score from the Vikings. Just this pressure coming in so hot, but the touch from Ciprique could lead to disasters. CSU not gonna get enough. UMU all there on defense, and what looked like a pretty great attack from CSU is now a final minute scramble once more to see if they can send it to overtime.
Yeah, it's certainly doable because we've seen these late scores from CSU come through. A little bit of a tap from Sip, but it is going to be the air block from Zanny. But again, like you said, a necessity of coordination. It needs to come through, and we just haven't seen it as consistently as we would like. Sip with the demo, but it won't matter. Icy with a little bit of a block up. It looked like Sip might have gotten a piece of it, but he didn't get enough to really send it through.
And we have to send it through in the next 19 seconds to make this series alive for the Vikings. UMU looking to just send home another land victory over the Vikings and take them to the lower bracket. But CSU gonna try and get a shot on goal, not quite gonna get it with 6 seconds remaining, no one in the position for the Vikings. This is going to go to an on tap. It seems like CSU is not in the position to get it. That ball is gonna fall straight to the ground. UMU popping off, they take it, the Vikings down 4-2, sending them to the lower bracket and putting them with a date for tomorrow against Indiana Tech.
Yeah, they were able to really just secure themselves in that game. And like we said, like we were saying the entirety of the series, it comes down, hey, PJ, it comes down to just consistency within how well they were working together.
Right.
We saw CSU have moments where I'd argue their coordination was even better. But it comes down to just consistently having that coordination, and we didn't see it from CSU. We saw it in bursts. We saw great moments from them, but we didn't see it enough. And like you said, it's going to book Mount Union an upper bracket date with Indiana Tech. CSU sent down to lowers. They're going to have to face Bethel come tomorrow. Other side of lowers, St. Xavier and Ashland. So a lot of great games happening. And one of the things that I'm really excited to see when you look at those score lines, a lot of long series. The only team to have multiple 4-0s is Indiana Tech, which not surprising.
Not surprised at all. They are the most dominant team in this conference for Rocket League. I mean, they almost made CRL. They had a lot of unfortunate circumstances happen to not make CRL, but
I thought I saw something saying that they were in CRL.
They are in CRL, but they didn't make it playoffs.
Oh, that's what it was.
West Virginia went on an eight-set run over the last 8 weeks to take their spots.
I see.
So they had a very dominant end of their season. But
yeah, that'll do it.
If we're looking back at the conclusion of the series, UMU proving why they're the better team on LAN, that coordination, that skill just coming out a lot more consistently than the Vikings. I mean, we've had the squad for CSU for like 2 years now. It's not bad at all. But even with UMU's freshman phenom, their coordination is still unmatched, and they're going to go into Indiana Tech looking to spoil their bid to Texas. And the Vikings, on the loser side, trying to make it back and trying to make it up to upper finals or just grand finals against Indiana Tech or Mount Union.
Trying to run things back, a possibility to take it all in the end, but it is a long road ahead for the side of CSU. Mount Union obviously having that easier road, but still having to go through the demon that is going to be Indiana Tech. Those matches, they'll be happening tomorrow, and that is going to be all the Rocket League action that we have for you today. Next set of matches that we're going to be having is going to be Overwatch, where we're going to have a heater coming at you for match number 1 on the mainstream. If I'm remembering this correctly, it's going to be St. Xavier and CSU, the 4 and 5 seeds for the tournament. 2 of the most highly anticipated squads coming into this year facing off in round 1 of playoffs.
Yeah, CSU losing early to Baldwin Wallace in the regular season of GLEC.
We did the thing.
I won't say what I want to say, but CSU, top 20 school in the Overwatch power rankings for collegiate. They're looking to take it home and make their first Texas bid as a squad. So having to play St. Xavier, right? It's going to be a pretty interesting bout for sure. But our Overwatch team is feeling pretty great. They're feeling like they're going to take it all. And I imagine St. Xavier is too. So we're going to be right back. We have awards at 1 o'clock. So stay tuned for that. And then right after, we're going to get some Overwatch action on the mainstream. So I've been Dr. Kerr from Cleveland State.
I've been Emily, representing BW. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, awards will be happening pretty shortly. And then once that's done, we will return with some Overwatch action for you here.
Peace out and go Vikes.